Asana, as you may know, literally, it means seat or throne. And that's N-E, not W-N. And it's ultimately a reference to the fact that the primary purpose of asana was to prepare our bodies for meditation. So we're going to start by talking about what in our tradition we would say are the four primary purposes of asana. And we'll talk more about these as the series progresses, but I'll invite you to keep these in mind even as we're working on our practice. First purpose behind asana has to do with the fact that the yogis realize that when our mind is agitated, okay, Michael can spell. I used to be an English teacher. You can see why I quit. When our mind is agitated, it's very hard for us to look beyond the mind to the self or the soul. We tend to get caught in this state. When we're caught up in the drama of our life, it's very hard to step back and remember the divine. In turn, when our body is in discomfort or when it's restless, it is very hard to calm our minds. So the first purpose of asana is to make our body a little more calm and a little more easeful so that our mind can become a little more calm and a little more easeful so that we can look beyond the mind to the Purusha. We're going to be talking a lot more about this, especially next session when we talk about meditation. But I'm just going to give you an analogy. We're in a room with our spunky pet dog. And if the room is agitated and noisy, the dog starts to bark and gets irritated. And this makes it really hard for us to experience peace. Right? If we can calm down kind of the cacophony, the craziness of our room, and get the dog just a little more calm, then we can start to experience the peace that's inside of us. Now, obviously, the dog is still going to occasionally bark. We're not necessarily going to make the dog completely still or completely quiet. It's the dog's nature to occasionally bark. The yogic view is that the mind is the same, and we're going to talk more about this. But what we're working on first off in our asana is simply getting our body a little more easeful, so our mind can be a little more quiet, so that we can look beyond our mind. Now, it's important for us to stay in touch with the fact that this is all a relative thing, and it's all a transient thing. We know that our bodies are transient vessels. And that means we can do all of the yoga in the world. We can follow the optimal perfect diet, and our bodies are still eventually going to develop aches and pains, and they're still occasionally going to get sick, and they are eventually going to shuffle off. So the goal of asana is not to make our body perfect and diamond-like and eternally healthy. In his 60s, my guru had a heart attack. And a handful of his devotees said, "But you can't have a heart attack. You're a lifelong vegetarian, and you do yoga, and you meditate, and your life is free of stress. How could you have a heart attack?" And he said, it's a body. It's a human body. These things happen. They wear down. It's going to happen. And eventually this body's going to die. Why? Because it's practical. It's transient. The cute continuation of that was, then his doctor said, oh, you have high blood pressure. Here's a prescription. A number of his devotees said, well, surely you're not going to take that prescription. You'll do an Ayurvedic remedy, or some traditional Indian, you'll do a special form of pranayama that will lower your blood pressure. And he said, no, I'm going to take the blood pressure medication. He said, I'm a Swami because God made me a Swami. This person's a doctor because God made him a doctor. This chemist in a lab developed this pill because God made him a chemist. Yeah, it's all God. And certainly that scientist who came up with this prescription, every bit as much God as an Ayurvedic physician or a naturopath. So that's all God.